Good day, fellow YouTubers, and thank you for joining me on this video. We're discussing the basic differences between two types of radiator valves. This particular type of radiator valve, which is generally called an angle globe valve. As you can see, it's sort of roughly spherical in shape, bonnet and handle. And this is the spud nut and the spud that goes in. This is screwed into the radiator, and you screw it in using a special tool with the that catches the lug nuts. And this is 1.25 inches. This would be primarily used for steam, although you could use it for a hot water radiator. You might not have the good valve authority to control the flow as well as you could, but this with the large opening is excellent for steam, single pipe steam radiator. This would be almost exclusively used for hot water. As you can see, it's cylindrical in shape, and the throat volume is definitely smaller than the throat volume of the similar size 1.25 inch valve for single pipe steam. So this would tend to restrict the flow of the water trying to get back down, back to the boiler when used as a steam radiator valve. In general, if I see this on site and the customer is complaining about spitting valves or inadequate heating, the usual cure is to remove this valve and install a proper valve. So yeah, you can use this for steam. This is America. You can do anything you want, but usually you pay the price. Also, this valve here, as you can see, there's a tiny hole in it, and the purpose of that hole is to allow water to flow through the radiator even if you've got this thing 100% shut off. There is no way of making this 100% shut off, is what I'm trying to say. The purpose of that is to keep the radiator from accidentally freezing. Steam radiators, the main advantage of them is that there's really no water to freeze and burst the radiator, unlike with a hot water system. Hence the purposefully designed hole. Now this is the more modern type. This is obviously import quality valve. The older style, again, roughly cylindrical in shape, and yes, you probably would. I think I even removed this from a steam system, but there's a cylinder inside the cylinder, so that's full on. Definitely got a pretty good volume place for the steam and the water to pass each other amicably, and this would work, but what would happen was this would probably jam, and you would never be able to close it. And even if you were to be able to close it, it would not, by design, shut off the steam or water. What tends to happen with these, they no longer make them like this anymore, I believe. What would tend to happen is this thing would get locked into a position and simply be frozen. And if you try to turn it, what would happen is the pin there would shear, and this thing would just spin, and nothing would happen except this would start to leak. I've cut away the old style to show you how they are constructed. It's basically a cast piece. There's no bonnet top like this, where it's there's a weakness there. The spindle or stem is dropped in. There's an offset there, or a shelf, to keep it from dropping into the valve. And then it's pinned there. It's upset. You can see that, yeah, just someone takes a hammer and a chisel and just whacks it and ties those together, and then this is supposed to move in like that. Again, the cylindrical shape, that used to be a good American brand. They still are around, but now most of their stuff is made overseas. So this is a cutaway. It's a 1 inch. You got the radiator spud here. There's the lugs, which are then used to use a special tool to thread those in. And this is how they're constructed. A lot of times on these old radiator valves, the material is long since eroded away, and you can't even shut them off anyway. They're just basically acting as a point of disconnect, that's fine. But the point I want to try to make now is that with a single pipe steam system, you don't want to use these to modulate. If you try, and I can understand why you would think that's possible, because, you know, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, so you can turn it off, and if you try to crack it open and just to allow a little bit of steam to get by and just heat the radiator just partially, what'll tend to happen is the steam will condense and pool around this valve, and the steam will try to bubble through, and it generally will spit. It might even hammer, and so you've got to open this 100%. And the way you control the steam in a single pipe system is by controlling the venting. I'm going to repeat that again because it's very important. You want to control the steam by controlling the venting and not by trying to modulate using the valve. The only thing that you can really modulate, the only fluid that you can modulate effectively is hot water. Sometimes this was removed from a single pipe steam system that never heated properly, primarily because this was set in the vertical position, and so as you might be able to imagine, the water would fill this pipe halfway, and as the steam tried to move over top of the water, it would hammer and spit and die in the pipe before it even got to here. So the radiator never heated very well at all, and then it was noisy at the same time, getting the worst of both worlds. You can see the staining here from the water. Even if you were to mount this in with the stem in the horizontal position, and I'll hope that the steam and the water would be able to pass each other, you've got restrictions. The fluid is changing direction about 3 or 4 times in here, losing energy at each change of direction. And so if you see this sort of globe shape on a line to a single pipe radiator, chances are that they've got the wrong valve in there, and that's probably why it's not heating right. So be on the lookout for this. This has fooled me a couple of times where I didn't really take a close look at it, and problems occurred. And once I removed these valves and added a gate valve, that usually took care of the problem. So again, the difference between this you want to have a globe valve as an angle valve for steam, and you want to have a cylindrical valve for hot water, although you can use this for hot water. In general, if you want to do that, it's best to drill a hole through here and make sure that it will not shut off 100%. I've seen it where you can get a valve like this, and it's designed for hot water, because if you look there, you'll actually see that the manufacturer has drilled a hole. So, but this the basic shape can tell. definitely hot water. Don't use these for steam. And you'll, I think, have a much more successful heating experience. I thank you very much for your support. I really appreciate all your comments, and I hope this video was helpful. Take care.